The smoke of Birmingham hasn't cleared. The city still carries the scars of war, and the blood spilled by the Shelbys has not yet dried. But power, once taken, demands to be defended. It is 1921. The world has changed since the Shelbys rose above Kimber. The family sits on the throne of the betting empire, but thrones are never stable. Enemies gather in the shadows, waiting for the moment the blinders slip. The story opens with Tommy Shelby standing in the heart of Small Heath, cigarette between his lips, eyes sharp as ever. Around him, the city moves, restless, dirty, alive. But behind his calm face, there is pressure. The racetracks are theirs now, yes, but the police are tightening, the government is watching, and whispers of a new enemy travel through the alleys. Inside the betting shop, Polly walks in, her presence commanding as always. She looks at Tommy, her voice steady. "We're not safe, Thomas. Kimber's gone, but men worse than him will come. You think victory means peace? It never does. Not for us." Tommy listens, but doesn't answer. Instead, he flicks ash into a tray and stares at the map laid out on the table. Lines drawn, territories marked. He sees the city as a battlefield, and he knows the next war is already here. Then, without warning, violence strikes. A bomb explodes in the heart of Birmingham. Glass shatters, people scream, smoke rises into the cold air. The message is clear: the Peaky Blinders have been marked for death. Tommy rushes to the scene, his coat whipping in the wind, eyes scanning the chaos. Blood stains the cobblestones, bodies lie broken, and fear spreads faster than fire. He knows this was not random. This was a warning. Later, in the garrison, the family gathers. Arthur slams his fist on the table, rage burning in his eyes. "We should hit back. Find out who did this and crush them before they think we're weak." His voice shakes with anger, but also with something darker. A restlessness that has been growing inside him since the war. Polly cuts in, sharp and unflinching. "And what then, Arthur? Another war? Another dozen graves? We fight, yes, but not like animals. Not without knowing who we're fighting." The room is heavy with tension. Ada, now a mother, sits quietly, her child at her side. She looks at Tommy, her voice low but firm. "You can't drag us into another storm, Tommy. Not with the baby. Not with everything we've already lost." But Tommy is already somewhere else in his mind. He remembers the look of the explosion, the precision of it. This was not Kimber's leftovers. This was something bigger. Something organized. And then the name comes to him, like a whisper carried on the smoke. The Italians. The Sabinis. Men from London with money, guns, and a thirst for power. That night, Tommy walks alone through the streets of Birmingham. The lamps flicker, rain falls softly on the cobblestones, and the city seems to breathe around him. He knows what lies ahead. He knows the war is moving beyond Birmingham, beyond the racetracks. He is no longer fighting just for Small Heath. He is stepping onto a much larger stage. He stops outside Grace's old place, staring at the door as if it still holds answers. The memories cut deep. He wonders if she's thinking of him, wherever she is. He wonders if she regrets the choices she made. But he shakes it off. There is no time for ghosts. As the night deepens, Tommy whispers to himself, almost like a prayer, almost like a curse, "This is just the beginning." And in the distance, unseen, enemies move closer. The game is bigger now. The Peaky Blinders have power, but power always attracts war. The city doesn't sleep after the bombing. Birmingham streets echo with whispers, fear, anger, and curiosity. Who would dare strike at the Shelbys? Who would dare challenge the Blinders now? In the Shelby home, tension runs deep. Arthur paces the room like a caged animal, his hands trembling, his eyes wild. The war may have ended years ago, but inside Arthur it never left. Every sound reminds him of gunfire, every shadow feels like an enemy trench. He drinks to silence the memories, but the whiskey never works for long. Tommy watches his brother, concern hidden behind his cold mask. He knows Arthur is slipping further away, but there's no time to stop and heal, not now. The enemy won't wait. Polly sits across from Tommy, arms crossed, her eyes sharp as blades. We need to be clever, Thomas. Whoever planted that bomb has money, soldiers, and brains. That means London. That means the Sabinis. Her voice lowers, heavy with warning. And if you go to war with London, it won't be just the Sabinis. You'll be fighting the whole bloody empire. Tommy lights a cigarette, the smoke curling slow between them. Then we fight smarter. They want to bring war here? Fine. But Birmingham is ours. And no one, no London man, no copper, no politician, will take it from us. Meanwhile, Ada feels the storm creeping closer. She visits Polly late at night, her baby asleep in her arms. Her voice trembles with fear. It's starting all over again, isn't it? More fighting, more bodies. I wanted out, Polly. I wanted a life away from all this. Polly's expression softens, just for a moment. We all want out, Ada. But there's no getting out when your name is Shelby. While the family debates, Inspector Campbell returns to the city. Bitter, broken, but more determined than ever. Grace may be gone, but his obsession with Tommy burns stronger. He walks into Birmingham like a ghost of vengeance, his uniform sharp, his eyes colder than before. He meets with men in high offices, speaking words laced with venom. Thomas Shelby has grown too powerful. The crown cannot allow it. One way or another, I'll put him in the ground. Back in Small Heath, the Peaky Blinders strike back. They raid a shipment belonging to the Sabinis, ambushing their men in the dead of night. The clash is brutal, knives flashing, boots stomping, blood spilling onto the cobblestones. Arthur roars like a madman, unleashing all his fury, while John fights with ruthless precision. When the dust settles, the Blinders stand victorious, but Tommy knows it's only the opening move. London will not take this insult lightly. Later, in the quiet of his office, Tommy pours himself a glass of whiskey. He stares at the fire, thinking. Every step he takes pulls him deeper into the game. But it's not just about survival anymore. It's about expansion. It's about empire. The sound of footsteps breaks his thoughts. Lizzie Stark enters, nervous but determined. She offers her loyalty once again, her eyes searching his face for even a flicker of softness. You'll need someone at your side, Tommy. Someone who can move in the shadows, someone you can trust. Tommy looks at her, his face unreadable. He says nothing, only nods slowly. Lizzie may not be Grace, but she is here. And in this war, every piece on the board matters. Outside, the city hums with tension. The Italians prepare their retaliation. Campbell sharpens his knives in silence. And Tommy Shelby knows that every move from here on decides not just his future, but the future of the entire Shelby family. The war with London has begun. London. The city hums with wealth, power, and corruption. In the smoke-filled clubs where politicians shake hands with gangsters, a new alliance begins to take shape. Sabini, the ruthless Italian crime boss, sits in a velvet chair, a glass of red wine in his hand. Across from him, Inspector Campbell leans forward, his eyes cold with obsession. Sabini speaks first, his voice smooth but laced with threat. Shelby thinks Birmingham is his kingdom. But he forgets, London rules the world. I'll burn his racetracks, I'll cut down his men, and when I'm finished, the name Peaky Blinder will be nothing but a memory. Campbell's lips curl into a bitter smile. Do that, Mr. Sabini. And when he's crawling in the dirt, I'll put the final nail in his coffin. Thomas Shelby thinks he can outplay the crown. He'll soon learn what it means to cross me. The pact is sealed. London and the law, united against the Shelbys. Back in Birmingham, Tommy senses the storm tightening around him. In the betting shop, the family sits around the table. Arthur slams down a glass, spilling whiskey across the wood. "We hit their men, Tom. We've shown them we're not afraid. Now we finish it before they bring the fight to us." John shakes his head, frustration sharp in his voice. "It's not that simple, Arthur. Sabini's got men everywhere. London's crawling with his dogs. We go in blind, we don't come back." Polly's voice cuts through the room, calm but deadly serious. "And there's Campbell. Don't forget the copper. He'll bleed us from the inside while the Italians tear us apart from the outside. You can't fight two wars, Thomas." Tommy leans back in his chair, cigarette smoke curling around his face. He listens, but he doesn't argue. He knows they're right. He knows the trap is closing. Yet inside him, the fire burns stronger. "We don't wait for wars to come to us," he says finally, his voice low, steady. "We take the fight to their door." That night, a plan begins to form. The Blinders ride to London, coats long, caps sharp, eyes hungry. The streets there are different, brighter, richer, but more dangerous. The Italians watch from the corners, knives hidden under suits, ready to spill blood. In a dim back alley, the first clash erupts. Blinders against Sabini's men. Fists crash, blades flash, boots stomp against cobblestones. Arthur fights like a man possessed, laughter twisted with rage. John is quick, efficient, leaving no man standing. The air fills with shouts, groans, and the pounding rhythm of war. When it ends, blood stains the London stones. The Blinders retreat into the night, their message loud and clear: Birmingham has come to London. But victory is never clean. One Blinder lies injured, gasping for breath as Tommy drags him to safety. Polly tends to the wounds later, her hands shaking though her face stays calm. She whispers under her breath, as if to herself, "This can't last. Sooner or later, it all falls apart." Meanwhile, back in Birmingham, Ada grows restless. She feels the weight of every gunshot, every drop of blood spilled in her family's name. Holding her child close, she wonders what kind of world she's raising him in. She wonders if Tommy's empire will end up burying them all. And in London, Sabini wipes blood off his shoes, unshaken. His voice drips with venom as he orders his men, "Hit them harder. Hit them where it hurts. We'll break Shelby piece by piece, until he kneels at my feet." The war is no longer coming. It is here. And for Tommy Shelby, every step forward pulls him deeper into the fire. The streets of Birmingham are restless. Every man whispers about London, about Sabini, about the blood spilled in alleyways. But Tommy Shelby knows something others don't: guns and fists alone won't win this war. Power lies elsewhere. Power lies in politics. Late one evening, Tommy rides through the city in his black car, the streets slick with rain. He isn't going to fight tonight. He's going to negotiate. He enters a grand building, far from the smoke and grit of Small Heath. Inside, wealthy men in fine suits drink expensive brandy, their laughter echoing under chandeliers. This is not Tommy's world. But he walks through it like he owns it. A man approaches, hands soft, voice polished, smile false. He's a politician with connections to the crown, and more importantly, to the gambling licenses Tommy needs to expand his empire. "Mr. Shelby," he says smoothly, "London is not Birmingham. Here, men like you don't survive without friends in high places." Tommy doesn't flinch. He pours himself a drink, his voice steady as stone. "I'm not here to survive. I'm here to win. And men like you, men in high places, you like money more than loyalty. The politician studies him, surprised by his boldness. A smirk forms. The game has begun. Back at the betting shop, Arthur loses himself in whiskey, smashing glasses, his rage boiling over. John tries to calm him, but it's useless. Arthur's war never ends. Every deal Tommy makes, every risk he takes, Arthur fears it will drag them all into hell. Polly watches it all, her sharp eyes catching every crack in the family. Later, she corners Tommy, her voice low but full of warning. "You think you can play both sides, Thomas? The politicians, the gangsters, the crown, and the streets. But one day, one of them will put a bullet in your head. And when that happens, the rest of us will pay the price." Tommy doesn't answer. He knows she's right. But he also knows there's no turning back. Meanwhile, Campbell lurks in the shadows, tightening his noose. He knows about Tommy's meetings. He knows about the deals forming behind closed doors. And he intends to use them. At a secret gathering, he meets with high-ranking officials. His voice is calm but ruthless. Shelby thinks he can play the game of kings. But he is just a street rat in a suit. "Gentlemen, I will deliver him to you, broken and begging." Back in London, Sabini strikes. His men attack one of Tommy's betting shops, smashing windows, beating workers, setting fire to the very heart of Shelby's business. By morning, smoke still rises into the grey Birmingham sky. People watch in silence, fear in their eyes. When Tommy arrives, he steps over broken glass, his boots crunching on ash. He surveys the damage, his face unreadable. But inside, the fire burns hotter than ever. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't shout. He simply whispers, "If they want war, we'll give them war." That night, the Peaky Blinders meet in the Garrison pub. Glasses clink, but there's no joy. Every man waits for Tommy's orders. Every man knows the war is only just beginning. Tommy lifts his glass slowly. His voice is calm, steady, almost quiet. "London thinks they can break us. But they've made a mistake. They've come into our house, spilled our blood. Now, we'll take theirs." The men raise their glasses. The promise is made. And in that moment, the fire that started in Birmingham spreads further, ready to consume everything in its path. The fire in Tommy's eyes has turned into action. After Sabini's men burned down one of the Shelby betting shops, revenge is no longer just an idea. It's a necessity. Late at night, the Blinders gather in a dimly lit backroom. Cigarette smoke hangs heavy in the air, whiskey glasses clink, and the silence is broken only by the sound of Tommy laying out the plan. His voice is calm, steady, but beneath it runs steel. "London thinks we're weak," he says. "They think we'll sit here, lick our wounds, and wait. But we're not waiting. We're striking first." Arthur leans forward, a grin spreading across his scarred face. "Now that's what I've been waiting for. Let me at 'em, Tom. I'll tear those bastards apart." John chuckles darkly, loading bullets into his gun. "About time. Let's show those London boys what happens when you cross Birmingham." But Polly watches from the corner, her arms folded, her expression grave. "You play this game too fast, Thomas, and you'll lose everything. Don't forget, they've got numbers. They've got London." Tommy doesn't argue. He simply stares at her, the weight of his silence saying everything. He knows the risk. He knows the cost. But still, he gives the order. The next evening, the streets of London glow under the gas lamps. The air is thick with danger. The Peaky Blinders move like shadows, caps low, coats swaying. Their target, one of Sabini's prized racetrack clubs, a jewel in his empire. Inside, the Italians laugh, drink, gamble. But then the doors burst open. The Blinders storm in, fists and blades flashing. The room erupts into chaos. Arthur smashes a bottle across a man's head, roaring like a beast. John swings his fists with brutal precision, dropping men one by one. The Italians scramble, shocked at the ferocity of the attack. In the middle of it all, Tommy moves with cold precision. He isn't wild like Arthur, he isn't quick like John. He's calculated. Every strike is clean, every move deliberate. And when the dust settles, Sabini's club lies in ruins. Tables overturned, men bleeding, the message written clear in blood and broken glass: the Shelbys have arrived. As they slip away into the London night, their footsteps echoing on cobblestones, Arthur laughs, his face splattered with blood. "That's it, Tom. That's how we win." But Tommy doesn't laugh. He lights a cigarette, his eyes fixed ahead. This isn't winning. This is just the beginning. Back in Birmingham, word spreads fast. The people whisper in awe: the Shelbys took on London, and they live to tell the tale. For the first time, the Italians look vulnerable. For the first time, the name, Peaky Blinders, carries fear beyond Birmingham. Yet, in the shadows, Inspector Campbell watches, always waiting. He meets with Sabini, his tone dripping with satisfaction. "See? I told you. Violence is all they know. But don't worry. I'll use their fire to burn them alive." Sabini snarls, rage in his voice. "Shelby will pay. Next time, I'll cut out his heart and send it back to Birmingham." The war isn't ending. It's escalating. And as the Blinders grow bolder, so too do their enemies. The streets of London are now painted in blood, and Tommy Shelby knows there's no turning back. The smoke from London's chaos hasn't cleared, yet Tommy Shelby is already planning his next move. He knows brute force alone won't win. To survive, he needs something more dangerous than guns or knives: he needs politics. One night, Tommy arrives at a lavish dining hall in London. The tables are lined with crystal glasses, silver spoons, and men who run the country from behind closed doors. These are not gangsters. These are power brokers, politicians, men whose signatures move armies and fortunes. Among them is Major Campbell, seated like a spider in his web. His smile is thin, his eyes sharp as a blade. He watches Tommy enter, amused and threatened at the same time. A well-dressed man, a member of Parliament, stands to greet Tommy. "Mr. Shelby," he says, voice dripping with curiosity. "Birmingham's famous bookmaker. What brings you to a table like this?" Tommy lights a cigarette, unshaken by the wealth and grandeur surrounding him. "Opportunity," he says simply. "You gentlemen control the law. I control the streets. Together, there's money to be made." A ripple of surprise passes across the room. Tommy's bluntness is shocking. But his confidence, his absolute certainty, commands attention. Campbell interrupts, his voice full of disdain. "Gentlemen, don't be fooled. Shelby is nothing more than a thug with ambition. Trust him, and he'll drag you into the mud with him." Tommy turns his head slowly, his eyes locking onto Campbell's. His voice drops to a deadly calm. "You don't like me, Major. But one thing you can't deny: I get things done. More than your policemen, more than your soldiers. You need men like me. Men who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty." The room falls silent. The powerful men exchange glances. They know Tommy is dangerous. But they also know he's useful. Meanwhile, back in Birmingham, the cracks inside the family deepen. Arthur drowns himself in drugs and drink, haunted by ghosts of the war. In the betting shop, he lashes out, smashing a chair to pieces, his rage uncontrollable. John tries to restrain him, shouting, "You'll get us all killed, Arthur." Polly steps in, her voice steady, her eyes fierce. "It's not London that will destroy us. It's ourselves. If you don't get Arthur under control, Thomas, the blinders will fall apart before Sabini ever lays a hand on us. Tommy listens, but says nothing. His silence is heavier than any argument. In London, Sabini is furious. His empire bleeds. His pride is wounded. He orders a brutal counterstrike. One of the Shelby-owned shops is ambushed. Men are beaten, money stolen, blood spilled on Birmingham streets. The message is clear: Sabini will not back down. When Tommy hears the news, he doesn't rage. He doesn't break. He simply sits in silence, cigarette burning between his fingers. His mind is already turning, calculating. Every attack, every betrayal, every deal brings him closer to something greater. But in the shadows, Major Campbell sharpens his trap. To him, Tommy isn't just an enemy. He's an obsession. And Campbell will stop at nothing, to destroy him. The war grows wider. The stakes grow higher. And Tommy Shelby stands right in the center, balancing between kings and criminals, allies and enemies, knowing one wrong step could bring it all crashing down. The Shelby Empire is growing, but with growth comes cracks. And those cracks are starting to show. Inside the betting shop, Arthur is a storm. His hands shake, his eyes red, his voice loud and violent. He's high again, lost in the chaos of his own mind. John tries to calm him down, but Arthur smashes a bottle against the wall, shouting, "You think London's gonna fear us when they see me like this?" Polly steps in, her voice sharp as steel. "It's not London I'm worried about, Arthur. It's you. You're gonna drag this family into the grave." Arthur glares at her, chest heaving, but deep down he knows she's right. The war outside is nothing compared to the war inside his head. Meanwhile, Tommy sits alone in his office, cigarette smoke curling in the air. On his desk lie 2 letters, one from Sabini's men, threatening more violence, and another from the politician he met in London, offering support, for a price. Tommy studies both, silent, calculating, every move like a chess piece on a board only he can see. Then comes a knock at the door. It's Michael, Polly's long-lost son, now slowly being pulled deeper into the Shelby world. His voice is steady, but there's a hunger in his eyes. "I want in, Tommy. Not just the shops. I want to be part of the business, the real business." Tommy looks at him carefully. Michael is young, untested, but ambitious. And ambition in the Shelby family is both a gift and a curse. "Careful what you wish for," Tommy mutters. In this world, once you step in, there's no stepping out. While the family struggles within, danger creeps closer from the outside. Sabini's men, humiliated by the attack on their club, strike back with precision. One night, a Shelby-owned van carrying cash is ambushed. Shots ring out in the darkness. Men fall. Blood stains the cobblestones. When news reaches Birmingham, the family gathers at the garrison. The air is thick with rage and fear. John slams his fist on the table. "They think they can walk into our streets, into our city, and do this?" Arthur's voice roars over him, wild and unhinged. "Then let's finish it, Tom. No more politics, no more waiting, let's burn their empire to the ground." But Tommy doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't move. He simply stares into the glass in front of him, speaking slowly, every word sharp as a blade. "We'll answer them. Not with rage. Not with noise. With silence. And when the time is right, they'll never see it coming." The room falls quiet. Every man feels the weight of his words. Yet, outside the family's walls, betrayal is already brewing. Someone whispers secrets to Sabini. Someone close. Someone the Shelbys trust. And as the war deepens, Tommy knows, the enemy isn't just in London. The enemy may be sitting at his own table, the storm is building, and Tommy Shelby can feel it in his bones. Every move the family makes, every step forward in London, is met with shadowy whispers, ambushes, and traps. Someone is feeding Sabini information. Someone close. Inside the betting shop, Tommy lays out maps and ledgers on the table. Every time we move, they're waiting. Someone's talking. His voice is calm, but the family can hear the ice beneath it. John clenches his fists. You think one of us is the rat? Arthur slams his palm on the table, his rage boiling over. I'll kill the bastard with my bare hands. But Polly cuts through the noise. This isn't about rage. This is about betrayal. And betrayal always comes from where you least expect it. The suspicion hangs heavy. Eyes dart around the table, trust beginning to fracture. Even Michael feels the weight of it, his young face hardening as he realizes what it means to be part of this family. Meanwhile, in London, Sabini sits in his club, smiling for the first time in weeks. One of his men whispers in his ear, handing him information about the next Shelby shipment. Sabini nods, satisfied. The Shelby boy thinks he's clever. But I've got someone whispering in his ear. And when the time comes, we'll gut him like a pig. Back in Birmingham, Tommy makes a risky move. He organizes a decoy shipment, a wagon filled with nothing but scrap metal, sent out under the cover of night. The family watches from the shadows. Hours later, the trap is sprung. Sabini's men swarm the wagon, expecting gold. Instead, they find rusted junk. From the rooftops, Tommy and his brothers watch, silent, their cigarettes glowing in the dark. Arthur smirks. Looks like someone's been feeding them lies, Tom. Tommy exhales smoke, eyes fixed on the scene. Not lies. The truth, just not all of it. The message is clear. There is a traitor. But Tommy is playing a longer game. Instead of rooting them out now, he's feeding them just enough rope to hang themselves. Yet betrayal has a way of cutting deeper than any blade. Days later, the Shelbys suffer a brutal blow. One of their trusted men, someone who's been with the family for years, is found dead in an alley, beaten and carved with Sabini's mark. The family gathers in silence, their grief wrapped in fury. John growls, his voice breaking. This ends now. But Tommy doesn't shout. He doesn't rage. He just stands, his cigarette burning down to ash, his voice steady as stone. We've been playing their game. Now we change the rules. As the war with London intensifies, the Shelbys are forced to look inward. Trust is fragile. Betrayal is near. And for Tommy Shelby, the most dangerous enemy may not be across the city, but within arm's reach. The city is boiling. Birmingham streets are crawling with Sabini's men, and London is tightening its grip. Every alley whispers with betrayal, every shadow hides a knife. Tommy Shelby knows the endgame is coming. And he's preparing for war. In the betting shop basement, weapons are laid out across a wooden table. Revolvers, knives, brass knuckles, tools of survival. Arthur paces like a caged beast, veins bulging, eyes bloodshot. No more waiting, Tom. We take them head on. Tonight. But Tommy's voice cuts through the room, calm, cold, unshakable. We fight on our terms. Not theirs. John slams his fist. And what are our terms? Every day, we lose men. Every day, they get stronger. What's the plan, Tom? Tommy steps forward, lighting a cigarette, the flame flickering against his sharp features. Smoke curls in the silence as he speaks. We draw them out. Not in London. Not in Birmingham. Somewhere they feel safe. Then we end it. One move. One strike. No second chances. Polly's eyes narrow. She knows what Tommy isn't saying. This isn't just business, it's personal. And personal wars are the most dangerous. Meanwhile, Major Campbell watches from the shadows, pulling strings of his own. He meets with Sabini, his voice dripping with venom. "You bleed him from the outside, I'll crush him from the inside. And when it's done, Thomas Shelby will be nothing more than a memory." But Campbell underestimates the one thing that makes Tommy truly dangerous: his patience. That night, word spreads of a Shelby shipment moving under cover of darkness. Sabini's men prepare for the kill. They gather in an abandoned yard, waiting, confident, certain this will be the blow that breaks the Peaky Blinders. Then it happens. The trap is sprung. Smoke bombs erupt, blinding the air. Gunfire cracks through the night. Shadows move fast and merciless. The Shelbys strike with precision, their blades flashing, their guns roaring. Men drop in chaos, screaming, running, falling into the dirt. Arthur charges like a mad bull, fists soaked in blood, roaring as he smashes through Sabini's soldiers. John fires with deadly accuracy, his anger cold and sharp. And in the center of it all is Tommy. Calm, controlled, every shot deliberate. His eyes burn with something darker than rage, something unstoppable. When the smoke clears, the yard is silent. Bodies lie scattered. The Shelby brothers stand tall, bloodied but unbroken. Arthur, panting, laughs through the madness. That's how the Blinders do it. But Tommy doesn't laugh. He doesn't smile. His eyes are already elsewhere, already calculating the next move. Because he knows, this isn't victory. This is just survival. And survival comes at a cost. The dust has settled, but the war is far from over. The yard still reeks of blood and gunpowder. The Shelby brothers may have won the night, but Tommy knows the real battle is only beginning. At dawn, he walks alone through the quiet streets of Birmingham. His coat sways in the wind, his eyes heavy with the weight of what's to come. A cigarette burns between his fingers. Polly waits for him in the kitchen, a glass of whiskey in hand. "You think this is over?" she asks, her voice sharp, tired. Tommy doesn't answer right away. He stares into the glass she slides across the table. "No. It's never over. Not for people like us." News spreads quickly. Sabini is wounded, humiliated, but not destroyed. His empire still stands, and behind him looms an even greater threat: the politicians, the police, and the men in London who play a bigger game than gang wars. And then there's Major Campbell. Watching. Waiting. His obsession with Tommy Shelby growing darker, more twisted. For Campbell, this isn't just business anymore. It's personal. But amid all the enemies, Tommy feels something else pulling him down, a betrayal closer than any rival. Whispers in the dark. Secrets passed under the table. He knows the traitor still breathes. And he knows, sooner or later, they'll show their face. That night, as the family gathers in the garrison, the atmosphere is heavy. Glasses clink, but no one smiles. Arthur's laughter is hollow. John's anger simmers. Polly studies every word Tommy says, every shadow in the room. Finally, Tommy stands. His voice is steady, but there's a fire behind it. "We've taken on London. We've bled for every street we own. And we'll bleed again if we have to. But remember this, no one breaks this family. Not Sabini. Not the coppers. Not anyone." The brothers raise their glasses, their eyes fierce, their loyalty sealed in blood and smoke. But outside, in the shadows, a figure watches the pub. Silent. Waiting. The true enemy is closer than anyone realizes. And as season 2 closes, Tommy Shelby stands at the edge of something far greater than a war with Sabini. He's walking into the jaws of politics, betrayal, and power unlike anything he's faced before. This is only the beginning. Outro. The streets of Birmingham will never be the same. The Shelby name is rising, but with every step higher, the fall grows deadlier. Season 2 has ended, but for Tommy Shelby and the Peaky Blinders, the real fight has only just begun.